Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Complete Spanish Grammar Lesson 5. We are reaching a new milestone today by reaching two of the most important verbs in Spanish, the verb ser and the verb estar. In Spanish, there are two verbs for what English has one. The verb ser and the verb estar both mean the verb to be in English. Now, when it comes to ser and estar in the conjugation in present tense, we already have seen these ones in a previous video where we saw the total irregular verbs. They are total irregular verbs because there is no shortcut nor a hacking mnemonic in order to learn these ones. I said that ser is the one that is slightly more difficult because all its conjugations for the different pronouns are actually different. So it's going to be yo soy, tú eres, él, ella, usted es, nosotros somos, ellos, ellas, and ustedes son. When it comes to estar is not really a total irregular verb, but it is considered one. When you conjugate it in the yo form, that is the one that is super strange or super different from the rest of them. So it's going to be yo estoy, finishing with a y, just like ser, instead of a o in normal verbs. The rest of the conjugations follow the AR conjugation of a normal, regular verb, but it's this tiny accent or tilde that makes the difference. You have to actually put that tilde or that accent on top of the A's and pronounce stronger that syllable. If you don't do it, you would be pronouncing the word this. Literally, the word this. The word this in the female form is esta, whereas he, she, or you formal is going to be está. Esta versus está. When to use the verb to be in Spanish? Most websites or most books mention that there is a permanent or a temporal quality to these verbs. Therefore, you should define if the quality is temporal or if it is permanent in order to use it correctly. I don't really like this approach because there will be a point where you will face a quality that is nor permanent nor temporal, and it's kind of like fitting into this valley of it is actually permanent, but you can consider it temporal. So which one do we use? I'd rather see it not as these two words, but better see it as something called specific or log qualities versus subjective qualities. The subjective quality depends on the eye of the beholder. The subjective part depends on the eye of the beholder. It's actually depending on the person speaking which of the two verbs you should use in each situation. Specific and log for the verb ser is going to be using for specific situations or log situations. Situations or qualities that are specifically assigned to the verb ser. The very first one is when you identify an object. When that object has a name or you actually are saying that that is the right object. For example, ¿Quién es la chica? Who's the girl? So you're using es for the girl because you're identifying that entity as a girl. So if you have a cell phone and you know it's a cell phone, you will use it to say es un celular because you're identifying the object as a cell phone. The answer to the question, ¿Quién es la chica? Who's the girl? Es María. Es mi amiga. So two new qualities to the girl. The girl is Maria, she is Maria, and two, she is my friend. So I'm giving these two qualities to the girl. Her name is Maria, and she is my friend. ¿Qué es eso? This question is really useful. You will be using this question so often. ¿Qué es eso? What is that? Now the word eso is that, but that word, the word eso, is normally a neutral, a word or an object whose gender or number you don't really know. After you know what the name, the gender, and the number is, You can no longer use eso. This one, they use it early on Complete Spanish Grammar. So I like to use it here so you learn the question. ¿Qué es eso? What is that? Later, in another video, we will be speaking about the demonstrative pronouns, which is the case of the word eso, and I will be explaining a little bit more on its use. Eso es un iPhone. That object, whose name, gender, or number you don't know, it's an iPhone. So eso es un iPhone. You're identifying that object as an iPhone. So when you identify an object, you have to use the verb ser. Number 2 is nationality or origin. When you talk about the nationality or the origin of a person or an object, you will be using the verb ser. For example, ¿de dónde es María? Where is María from? So you're asking about the origin of this girl. Es de México. Es mexicana. So the origin, she is from Mexico. The nationality, es mexicana. She is Mexican. In Spanish, nationalities are not used with a capital letter at the beginning of the word. That's why mexicana has a lowercase instead of an capital letter. The third one is going to be recipient. Recipient is a little bit specific. Let's think that you buy a gift and that gift is for someone else. That someone else is the recipient of an action. So you're always going to be using the word para to name the recipient. Imagine you have a tag on that gift and that tag says for María. So the conversation would go as follows. ¿Para quién es? Talking about the gift. Who is this for? ¿Para quién es? You're using es and the word para to ask for, right? Es para María. It is for María. So the recipient, the person who's going to get this, is María. Profession is another specific or log used for the verb ser. I put this word in green because there is another use of the verb estar that also deals with professions, but here you're going to be talking about the main profession, the one that you study for, okay? ¿Cuál es tu trabajo? What is your job? Soy doctor. I am a doctor. So if you are speaking about the main job or the job that you study for university or anything for which you study a couple of years and is your main job, not a gig that you do over the weekend, you will be using the verb ser. So if you're a teacher, soy maestro. If you're a waiter, soy mesero. If you're an architect, soy arquitecto. Next is material. If you want to talk about the material something is made of, you will be using the verb ser. A wallet is made of leather, a microphone is made of metal, a chair is made of wood. So if you want to talk about the material something is made of, you have to use ser. For example, ¿de qué es la estatua? What is the statue made of? De madera, of wood. So wood is the material. So you have to say es de madera. In conversation, we would just say the material. The verb would be omitted, but in reality, the long sentence would be la estatua es de madera. The statue is made of wood. Time is the next specific or log use. When we talk about the hours, what time is it? We ask, ¿qué hora es? Once again, this is a question you need to remember because it never changes. It's always going to be, ¿qué hora es? ¿Qué hora es? What time is it? Son las 8. It is 8. So every time you talk about the time that it is right now, you will use the verb ser. Son las 8. Next is possession. When you possess an object, you have to use the verb ser. ¿De quién es este iPhone? Whose iPhone is this? That is, from that question, is going to be the verb ser. So when you possess something, you're going to say, es de María. Es, using that ser from the possession use. It is Maria's. Notice that we don't have an of in the possession from that Maria's part. We instead use de. So if you have a phone, and I want to say, ¿de quién es este teléfono? I would say, es de Carlos. Es de. It is Carlos. Next one is the specific use of dates. Once again, I put dates in the green color because we have to compare it to the dates usage from the verb estar. They are different, just like professions. They don't really overlap its use. They are actually different. You just have to realize that the question you need to ask is different because the answer you will be using is also different. When you ask about dates, you will be asking about what day is it today. So, ¿qué día es hoy? What day is it today? There is a typo. It should have been what day, not what days is it today. So, ¿qué día es hoy? What day is it today? Es lunes. It is Monday. So, when you reply to the question, ¿qué día es hoy? You have to use the verb ser. Es lunes. Literally, today is Monday. So, this example fits perfectly. Now we're jumping to the specific or log uses of estar. These ones, just like the ser uses, they do not really change. They're always going to be that way. That's why it's simple, because if you remember the structure, you will remember the use. The location. This one is in red because we want to see that there is a location use for the verb ser. But when you talk about a location with the verb estar, you will be talking about the spatial location of an object. If an object is taking space in the world, then you're going to be using está. This also applies for files. So if you have a file in your computer, it's not really taking physical space, like it's not really moving air, but it's actually taking memory space, you will also be using estar. So if you think about it, it's taking space, it's moving bytes, let's say. So it's going to be using the verb estar. For example, ¿dónde estás? Where are you? Where are you located? Where are you displacing some air? Where are you? So, estoy en la escuela. I am at school. So you will be using estar when you talk about the location, but it has to be spatial location, where an object is. Marital status is the next one, and this one is super specific because you will be using estar when you talk about your status, your marital status. So if you are married, ¿estás casado? Are you married? No, estoy soltero. No, I am single. Marital status always uses the verb estar. Next one is position. Position is really related to the location one because you have to talk about an object that exists in a place, but now you're making it specific. Where in that place? Is that on top, below, inside, where that object is taking space? So you will be using position with the verb estar. For example, ¿dónde está el iPhone? In the first one, we're asking, where are you? Where are you located? I'm at school, right? I'm just there, but I'm not telling you where exactly at the school I was. In this question, where is the iPhone? You're asking for the placement, the specific placement or the position of the iPhone. So, el iPhone está en la mesa. It is not only existing on the table, but is on the table. Dates. This is the one that goes on opposition with the verb ser for dates as well. Notice that this one always used with a and in the nosotros form. In the previous one, the question was, ¿qué día es hoy? Es is used in the he, she, or usted form, the singular form. So in this one, you will be using the nosotros, a plural form. The question, the specific question is, ¿a qué día estamos? You have to use the letter a, and then in the nosotros form, the verb estar. ¿A qué día estamos? What day are we? Literally, it's like you're taking in consideration the rest of the people for asking this question versus just what day is it versus what day are we on. ¿A qué día estamos? Estamos a lunes. We are on Monday. The question is different. That should trigger the difference. ¿Qué día es hoy versus ¿a qué día estamos? Two different questions, two different verbs, two different answers. Now, the subjective uses are, like I said, depending on the eye of the beholder. It is up to you to use estar or ser. This is what they say when, oh, it's temporal, but it's also permanent. Let's take it as subjective. Let me explain you why. When you have ser and estar, in different cases, you have location, but one is temporal and the other one is spatial. Temporal means that it goes through time. It's going to be an object that can be carried out, that actually takes time to be performed or executed. For example, you have an exam. An exam can take place over minutes or hours. So it can go from 1 hour to 2 hours to 3 hours in order to take an exam. If something can take place over time, you will be using the verb ser. For example, el examen es en el salón 12. You're saying that it is in classroom 12, but it's not located a physical exam. Like pieces of paper are not located on the classroom. Basically, you're talking about the exam, the abstract concept of this object that can be carried out or performed or taken, in this case for an exam. When you talk about the exam, a physical paper or a specific object, then you will be using estar. In this example, el edificio está en la Quinta Avenida. The building is on the 5th Avenue. Building cannot be done or performed or taken, but an exam can be taken. Let's say, for example, a movie. A movie, when you ask about the room where a movie is being played, the movie can be played, and that play can take normally 2 hours, nowadays 3 with those DC movies, but it's going to be using ser. ¿En qué sala es la película? For asking about the room where it's being played. But if there is a movie, literally a CD or Blu-ray, you will be asking with está. ¿Dónde está la película? And you can answer like it's on the table, or it's on the seat, or it's somewhere, because it's taking space. Profession. Like I said earlier, profession can be used with ser when it's your main job, when it's the job for which you study, right? You study at university to be a doctor, then soy un doctor. But if you don't work as a doctor because you're getting more money as a waiter, you will be using estar for that job. Let's see, for example, soy doctor. Yo soy doctor. I am a doctor. Versus yo estoy de mesero. I am working as a waiter. Probably I am a doctor because I study to be a doctor. But on the weekend, I work as a waiter. It's not my official job. It's just to get an extra income, but you're doing that job just to get more money. So then you will be using está. Yo estoy de mesero. Notice that you need to use the preposition de between the verb estar and the job. Whereas in the verb ser, you just use the verb ser plus the job. Yo soy doctor. Yo estoy de mesero. You could have said, yo estoy de doctor, but that is not then your official job. Your official job could be a lawyer, but then you are probably pretending or working as a doctor, but you are not a doctor because you didn't study medicine at university. So that's how you can say that you're doing probably a gig over the weekend. Characteristics. Now, when it comes to characteristics, this one is the one that I really like to use the concept of subjectivity. Now, the common example is when you talk about someone's physical appearance and you say, Mike es gordo versus Mike está gordo. Both of them mean Mike is fat, but they don't really mean the same in Spanish. There is a difference. So let's see what that difference is. let's imagine that you're at kindergarten and you just enter school for the very first time. This is you with your cap, enjoying school, not caring about adulthood, but just caring about your candies and your friends, probably, and probably the Play Doh you have at home. And then you meet your friend Mike. Mike loves lollipops, paletas. He loves lollipops. He's always eating a lollipop. When you see Mike, well, as a kid, you will say Mike is fat. When you are a kid in kindergarten and you see Mike, you will say Mike es gordo, because when you met Mike, he was fat. So this is the quality or the characteristic that Mike has, right? Mike es gordo, and Mike loves lollipops. Me gusta mi paleta. But now let's say that through kindergarten, primary school, secondary school, high school, university, Mike started doing exercise every single day to improve his health. And after 30 years, you and Mike end up working in the same company. Now, if you look at this one, you look the same with your same cap, just a tie. But Mike looks different. Mike is no longer fat, he's slim. So when you're at the office, you will say, Mike está delgado. Here the concept of subjectivity is that Mike in his original state was fat. But it's not his original state because probably Mike wasn't a fat kid. He was actually born as a skinny kid, but he ate too much and then he became fat. But in front of your eyes, the very first time you met Mike, he was fat. So for you, Mike has always been fat and he had a change. Now that change, we need to represent it somehow because it's not the original state Mike was when you met him on the very first time. So you represent it by changing the verb from ser to estar. That is what many books say, oh, well, that's a temporal. But they don't actually explain that temporal can change or can take place many years. It's not a really quick change. It can take many years. That's why I prefer to call it subjective, because it depends on how you originally met this person and then you saw a change. So Mike está delgado. So there was a change. He was originally fat. Mike es gordo, but now he's not. Mike está delgado. But let's introduce a new character. This new character is called Susan. And Susan is new at this office and she is meeting you guys for the very first time. In this occasion, she will not say Mike está delgado. No, she will say Mike es delgado because as for her, using her eyes, Mike has always been delgado. Mike has always been slim. She never met the fat Mike. She has always met the slim. So for her, the original state of Mike is slim. So she will say Mike es delgado. Start learning with a professional teacher. Classes are tailored according to your level. And your progress is important, so I keep track of how you're doing so you're always achieving more. Book a trial class and start your language journey now. There are other characteristics that also need to be called subjective because they really change depending on which verb you use. For example, Susan es hermosa. Susan is beautiful. But Susan está hermosa also means Susan is beautiful. There is a slightly difference here. Susan es hermosa is when Susan has always been cute. You know Susan as a cute person, as a persona that is hermosa. But if you say Susan está hermosa, it's because particularly today she's beautiful. She never wears makeup, but today she did. And for you, you think that Susan looks particularly prettier or pretty with makeup. So you will say Susan está hermosa. right? Or Susan es hermosa, you find her attractive. But Susan está hermosa is she's wearing a new dress or her hair is in a different way. You just find her cute. That doesn't mean that she's not, but you're finding her attractive. Paul es feliz. Paul is happy. Versus Paul está feliz. Paul is happy could be interpreted as Paul is a happy person. He's always happy. Paul está feliz means that something happened for him to be happy right now. So these actions are better understood if you think as for right now. Paul is happy as for right now. Or maybe Paul is a sad person, but today he won the lottery. So you will say, Paul está feliz. If he's a sad person and he won the lottery today, you can actually say, Paul es una persona triste. So Paul is a sad person. Pero hoy, Paul está feliz. But today, Paul is happy. Right? So he's a particularly sad person through his life. You have always seen Paul as a sad person. But today, something is different. He's happy. So that different is a change from his original state. Susan está embarazada versus Susan es embarazada. Now this one is impossible in one of the two. Susan is pregnant. A woman cannot be always pregnant. So you can never say Susan es embarazada. You have to always say Susan está embarazada. Paul es enfermo versus Paul está enfermo. This one is the same. Paul can never be always sick, right? People normally are at a normal stage, which is like non-sick. But then there is a change. So you cannot say Paul es enfermo, but Paul está enfermo. Because he can be cured, and he was, before being sick, he was cured. Well, he was just normal. Paul es muerto versus Paul está muerto. This one is once again subjectivity. You were at a normal stage, you were alive, right? And then you're dead. So there was a change. Many resources say, well, you have to use ESTAR, and that's temporal. And that is where the temporal concept doesn't really fit. Because if you call it temporal and also call pregnancy temporal, that means that death is temporal. And we're talking about zombies, perhaps. No, you were in a normal stage, which was alive, and now you're dead. And that is the temporal. It cannot be, once again, alive, unless we discover how to reborn people. But no, it's going to be ESTAR. Always going to be ESTAR. So you cannot say Paul es muerto. It's always going to be Paul está muerto. And the same applies for being alive. Paul está vivo. So when Dr. Frankenstein yell, está vivo.
Vive. Está vivo. Está vivo. Sí, sí, está vivo. Está vivo. Está vivo. Está vivo.
That's what he said in Spanish. Now, subjectivity, or the subjective use between ser and estar, can also lead to change of meaning. It is not the same to use ser versus estar. For example, Susan es lista versus Susan está lista. Susan es lista means she is smart. The adjective lista with the verb ser equals smart, versus the verb estar plus the adjective lista equals ready. So Susan está lista, she is ready. Susan es lista, Susan is smart. Susan es rica versus la manzana es rica. Susan is rich versus the apple is delicious. Now, can you say la manzana es rica? Probably, but that would only mean that the apple has money, which is weird. We would never say that one. Can you say Susan está rica? Yes, you can, but in a colloquial way. So you're actually referring as Susan being delicious. You find her attractive. So you can actually say Susan está rica, but it's mostly used for food. Susan es buena versus Susan está buena. Susan es buena means she is good. She's not evil, right? She doesn't go through life killing people. She is good. Susan es buena. versus Susan está buena. Susan está buena means she's hot. You find her hot, sexy, attractive. Susan está buena. Can you say la manzana está buena? Yes, but if you say la manzana está buena, I highly doubt that you find an apple attractive. You will find the apple delicious. So same happens here. These adjectives with the verb estar applied to a person means that you find the person attractive or sexy or hot. Versus if you use it with an object, mostly with food, you will say that you find the food delicious. Can you use it with an iPhone? ¿El iPhone está rico? No, because normally we don't eat iPhones. We eat food, not iPhones. Mi iPhone es nuevo versus mi iPhone está nuevo. Mi iPhone es nuevo means my iPhone is brand new. It's probably the upcoming iPhone, where are we, iPhone 14? So it's going to be that one. So it's going to be mi iPhone es nuevo. In case you buy the new iPhone, you're going to say mi iPhone es nuevo. But you don't have enough money, but you want to buy the iPhone 11. But the iPhone 11 is sealed in its box, right? But this year they are releasing the iPhone 14. But you're buying the iPhone 11, but it's sealed in its box, then you will say mi iPhone está nuevo. Because it's new, literally, haven't used. Literally, nobody has used that iPhone. It's new, está nuevo. But that doesn't mean it's the brand new iPhone. So if it's brand new, mi iPhone es nuevo. If it's just new, sealed, it still smells great, you can say mi iPhone está nuevo. Susan es cerrada versus el banco está cerrado. Susan es cerrada, she's narrow-minded, right? She doesn't like to hear opinions. Versus el banco está cerrado, a place is closed. Can you say Susan está cerrada? Not really, because Susan doesn't really have a schedule. But you can call a bank, a movie theater, anything can be closed. So you will be using está cerrada. Susan es aburrida versus Susan está aburrida. Susan es aburrida, meaning she is boring, right? Her quality is to bore people. You just meet Susan and you just get bored immediately. Versus Susan está aburrida. Perhaps the boring one is you, and she is bored. Let's see some examples. La carne está buena. The meat is delicious. Now, can we interpret that sentence as the meat is hot and sexy? No, because meat is an object, right? So you will not identify nor call meat sexy. But can you say, tu amigo Mike está bueno? Yeah, your friend Mike is hot. So you're actually saying that that person, you find that person attractive. Tu amigo Mike es bueno also works. But now you're calling Mike a good person and not an evil one. El salón 3 está vacío. So classroom number 3, the classroom 3, is empty. Let's see some conversations. First, I'm going to read them slowly, then in normal pace, and finally we're going to translate. ¿Quién es la chica junto a Mike? Es María. Es prima de Paul. ¿Y de dónde es? Es mexicana. Creo que es de Guadalajara. ¿Y a qué se dedica? Es profesora de español. Y a veces, sometimes, y a veces está de modelo. ¿Está casada? No, está soltera. ¿Por qué lo preguntas? Porque yo estoy soltero también. Let's see one more time. Normal pace. ¿Quién es la chica junto a Mike? Es María. Es prima de Paul. ¿Y de dónde es? Es mexicana. Creo que es de Guadalajara. ¿Y a qué se dedica? Es profesora de español. Y a veces está de modelo. ¿Está casada? No, está soltera. ¿Por qué lo preguntas? Porque yo estoy soltero también. So he wants to hit on María, probably, right? So let's see the translation. ¿Quién es la chica junto a Mike? Who is the girl next to Mike? ¿Quién es? So you're identifying, right? You're identifying the girl. Because you're using the word quién, you're then identifying the girl. ¿Quién es la chica? Es María. Es prima de Paul. Once again, you're identifying the girl. Once as her name, and second as her relation. So, es María. She is María. Es prima de Paul. She is Paul's cousin. ¿Y de dónde es? And where is she from? You're asking for the nationality or the origin. So you're using es. Es mexicana. Creo que es de Guadalajara. So she is Mexican. The nationality. And then the origin, I think that she is from Guadalajara. Creo que es de Guadalajara. I think that. Creo que. ¿Y a qué se dedica? And what does she do for a living? That's a good translation that you can use for ¿y a qué se dedica? She does for a living. What does she do for a living? Es profesora de español y a veces está de modelo. So here we're using both structures about profession. One for her original profession and the second one that she does probably over the weekend or not as her official job, but she just do it for extra income. Es profesora de español y a veces está de modelo. She is a Spanish teacher. There is a typo, should be she is a Spanish teacher. And sometimes she is working as a model. So she is a Spanish teacher. That's her official job. And sometimes she is working as a model. ¿Está casada? Is she married? No, está soltera. No, she is single. The marital status, right? The marital status is always using the verb estar. ¿Por qué lo preguntas? Why are you asking about it? ¿Por qué lo preguntas? Porque yo estoy soltero también. Once again, the marital status with the verb estar. Because I am single as well. Practice time. Let's see how you make these sentences. Try to answer them in the comments below, and I will be checking them and letting you know if you did correctly. So the first one, I work as a waiter. As a waiter, como mesero. She is my cousin and she is pretty. Mi prima and bonita. Okay? Your friend Mike is fat. No, he is not fat. He is fat. As for right now, there is a change, right? Try to use the correct verb for that change. Tu amigo Mike is fat. No, he's not fat. He is fat, as for right now. And finally, Susan is pregnant. Remember, pregnancy is a change because originally you were not pregnant. So which one would be Susan is embarazada?